Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Rain Talks. I have the pleasure of having the Icarus Kid as my guest here today. Um, he is a music producer who has a very specific genre that he creates that I personally love very much. Anyone who was born before 1990 has a deep place in their heart for all the music that the Icarus Kid creates. Um, he creates video game dance music and recreates some of those wonderful hits, that those theme songs that got looped over and over and over again in any video game we've ever played growing up, from Mario to anything across the board to even some modern stuff today. Um, Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to talk to you and get into everything today.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. You're based California, right? So you're a
Yep.
little bit earlier for you.
Yeah, Los
Um,
Angeles.
and I was listening to some music beforehand, and doing a bunch of research on you as much as I could find. So your background's a little interesting. Like, I believe you are like a classically trained musician that happened to get into producing electronic music.
Yeah, I always used to play in bands because I studied classical and jazz in college. I was a computer science major, but also studied music on the side. And I always wanted to be like the keyboard player in a funk band, or like the jam bands were really big around that time. Trying to be the next Herbie Hancock, and it never could quite get into the flow of that. And then my friend introduced me to Daft Punk, and that was kind of the gateway drug to house music, electronic music in general. And then I'm like, no, making music with computers, that is the best instrument.
Yeah, Daft Punk, I think, was like the most influential for a lot of people of a certain age and generation.
Hmm.
The type of music they're creating, the pageantry of the costumes, the effects for the first time. They're also super big on like anime culture and comic book culture and that whole scene that they kind of just pushed everything together that they loved at one point and were like 100% themselves. And there's a whole generation of people that were like, this is what I want. And Daft
Hmm.
Punk like filled that need. And I remember, I don't know if I first fell in love with electronic music with Daft Punk, but when I first discovered Daft Punk, it was like one of the first ones. I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
when you just hear the synths go, it was different from like, I feel like there's like the synth pop that was that in the 70s or the 80s? But
Yeah,
like,
both for sure.
but there's that sound, which like was the first synthy sound that got popular, but it was Daft Punk was the first one where it was like, this is like electronic music that's has vocals to it. It's catchy. And I don't know what it is, but I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I listened to Chemical Brothers and Crystal Method in high school in the
Yep.
90s. And that was also, something that you could listen to, like goes alongside listening to rock, but it didn't quite have that bridge to techno and house that Daft Punk did. Because they're like, I love all the French disco house. Uh, it comes from a lot of different genres, but it all has that really just fun, poppy, dreamy feel that you just really enjoy. And then going out to house music clubs and then feeling that, I'm like, okay, now I'm home.
Yeah, I remember. I think I always loved them, but then at one point there was like a re. I was in college from 2008 to 2012, and I remember there's like a rebirth of like in the university scene in Georgia where I'm from, with like all the colleges and fraternities for some reason, just everyone was playing Daft Punk. Like every party, like Robot Rock was blaring at every tailgate, every late night. Like Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger was always on. Like I don't know
Mhm.
why, but there's this weird switch that happened like the late 2000, like 2008, 2012, where it just like ramped back up, and everyone was like, I don't know why I'm just everyone's all into this now, but it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, who are some of your biggest influences?
I would say they're one of the big ones for me. I would say some like the super big ones for me would be like Cascade was one of the original ones that really got me
Mhm.
into it. Some of the Avicii, which was like any of the stuff that was very housey, but was heavy on the keys leading the melody. I don't know why. And like I always had to like I always liked house music. I like techno growing up a little bit, all that stuff going. But anyone who was the first one that made it super melodical and had very heavy, like emotional, strong female vocals was like the
Mhm.
first thing I really got drawn to. Those are huge influences for me. And then in the Southeast, there's a super strong following of two electronic artists that like really got me into electronic music into the scene. I can't make any of the music like they do now, but it was Pretty Lights and Bass Nectar were humongous in the Southeast, constantly touring, literally like shows you can go to every like 2-3 months. And that was like a huge influence for me of like getting passionate and really enjoying like going to electronic music concert and being in the moment, enjoying something that I hadn't really experienced before. Because before I was like huge in like Dave Matthews Band, like a bunch of rock bands, any of the emo bands growing up when I was all emotional and a teenager, like all those things. But then it was like a perfect like.
Yeah, Bass Nectar was really kind of. I was talking about how Daft Punk was a gateway drug to house. I feel like Bass Nectar was another bridge that a lot of people took from the jam band scene to get into electronic music. And what was the other one? Sound Tribe Sector 9?
Yep, Sound Tribe Sector 9 was really big. I'm not a big fan. Nothing against anyone who likes them, but that was very popular in the Southeast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm originally from Kentucky, so that's kind of how I came out of the jam band scene.
Yep. The jam band scene in the South is big. It's very,
very... Really?
Oh, it's still going. Fish,
I moved to the West Coast, and I just assumed that everything died out, but I guess I just left it behind.
I don't know if it's still as big, but it's still very popular.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember like jam band stuff. I liked it, but I was like, can I just get a lyric every once in a while?
Yeah, it's all great until you go to the show, and then the jams are 5 minutes longer than they were on the album.
Oh yeah, you really got to love it.
Mm-hmm.
Those guitar solos go for a long time.
Yeah, but that's my original roots, is trying to be like the keyboardist for that kind of thing. And I did it for a while. I played in a lot of bands, but once I started doing stuff on my own and then DJing and producing, I'm like, I think I like this better. Even though I've done bands since, but working solo is the best for me.
I can understand that. I feel like just from a time perspective, it's easier and simpler.
Absolutely. Well, just anytime you're working forward, there's so many decisions you need to make in a song. There's going to be thousands of decisions just for a single track. And if you're working with somebody else, in theory, all those decisions are democratic, and that just is slow. You go back and forth, like, what do you think about this snare? And really, you just have to be like, snap, snap, snap each one, because the decisions don't matter. You know, if you have one snare over another, that's not really going to be the heart of the song, you know?
Yeah, if you think about the thousands of decisions you make, almost none of them make or break the overall sound of the track.
That's why I think the power of deadlines comes in, is otherwise you really can get down, because it's not that they don't matter. They do. You know, a shitty snare isn't going to make a pop like a good one, but you just got to find a good one, be like, this is good enough, and then move on. And I think the deadlines really helps get you out of analysis paralysis.
Yeah. I remember Zach, one of the lessons that I don't know why it burned in my brain. He was like, when you're doing sound design, don't go like spending 20 minutes like tuning your snare. Just get a better snare.
Yeah.
He's like, if you're trying to fix the sound, it's like your sound design is broken and you've made a bad choice. Just get a better sound.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who were some of your influences growing up?
Man, I'm gonna blank on this one, but yeah, like early on, I was doing like prog rock and funk, like Herbie Hancock and Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Then everything got switched, and I was doing, you know, like Daft Punk, and after that, Justice. Deadmau5 is huge, and here's where I think.
Oh, I forgot about Deadmau5. Deadmau5 was huge for me too.
Yeah.
Deadmau5 is huge for me too.
And then, like the individual members of the Swedish House Mafia before they became Swedish House Mafia. And a lot of techno, and honestly, a lot of those names are just escaping me now because I haven't listened to him since before 2010. Yeah, if there was any one DJ that was just the biggest influence, I would say Deadmau5, and not just for the music, but because my music doesn't really sound anything like his. It's just how you can approach making a show and putting something on. It's, you know, it's not just about the music. Of course, the music's the most important part, but you know, people want to be entertained, and I think he really understands that innately.
Yeah, I didn't realize it then, but now as I'm going through making my own music, like you appreciate what he did. Like it's almost like the simplicity makes it good for Deadmau5, but he went all in on the brand.
Exactly.
He's like, I'm gonna make really good music, but I'm going 100% in on the brand, and he executed it perfectly. He doubled down and invested everything he made back into his brand to making every production better each time he went on tour. So like the first time I saw him with the LED helmet on, I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever, because there's barely even any graphics back then. You see this guy with the helmet on, and then you hear rumors of him passing out because it's so hot in there playing a show. You're like, this guy's amazing. And then the next time he comes around, it's even bigger. And so it was like when he came back a third time, I was like, it's getting even better this time. The cubes are moving. And I was like, I was fully engulfed in like the experience that I'm going to get from the music.
Yeah, that's my goal going forward, is what can I do with computers, with programming, to just make it more interesting, make it more engaging. And I have a lot of stuff that I'm currently working on. That's the audience interaction with the lights, with the video, with the music. It doesn't need to be mind blowing, but if it can set you apart, then why not do it?
Oh, I agree. I have a technical background. I'm not a developer. I come from the tech space. So you are developer by trade during the day, producer at night. Are you like, what type of development do you do today?
Today I'm a consultant. I work in integrations, so basically a little bit of everything, lots of different languages. Currently working for Jack in the Box, so everything that integrates their stores with the online ordering, all that kind of thing. Yeah, what do you do in the tech space?
I do marketing now, but I was in like CRM technology. I worked at Salesforce as a technology like engineer for a long time.
Awesome.
So,
I just renewed one of my Salesforce certs today.
Yep. So I was certified in all that kind of stuff. But I would be the guy that comes in like, hey, I'm Jack in the Box and I want to buy all the marketing technology. I'd be like, tell me what everything you have is, and I'm going to tell you what to do, what we need to sell you, and how everything works together. Cool. That was kind of my role.
And I would be the one hooking up Salesforce to every other system that you
Correct. You were the one that actually has to do it. I'm just the big pie in the sky. It was great. So cool. You're working on stuff today for your production for the like. Are you working doing like creating your own visuals and stuff like that today to kind of tie in the experience more?
The visuals are pretty basic. What I've always done is MIDI to DMX light shows. I've been doing that for 10 years, and it's really not that hard. And especially today, the hardware is a lot more easy to find than when I started doing that in 2009. I'm adding video now. I've messed around with that in the past, but I have a separate computer running Resolume and hooking that up into the DJ controller where there's videos to play with the songs, and you can mix back and forth with those and other effects in that. Nothing that hasn't been done before, but each layer that you add on, and then you can think like, okay, how can these interact? What can I do that hasn't been done? And some other stuff that I'll keep in the top secret because I don't want to, spoil it before it's ready.
That is fair. From a nostalgia factor, I feel like you could emotionally pull me in like 10 times more based on the type of music like that you've released that I've listened to. And if I actually see the visuals of like from the video game, like if I see Mario in the background, I'm like fully engulfed.
Yeah, and also I think some of the stuff that I do, it goes pretty far away from the original. So you get that visual, it's like, oh yeah, this is Dire Dire Ducks, even though the original one is slow in a major key and this is pumped up in a minor key. And then but you need that little signal, and then you're like, oh yeah, now I recognize this.
Yeah. Obviously you're not recreating exactly, but like yours has so much more depth to it because those what I appreciate about your music is that you're taking something that was so simple and making it 100% relatable but complex.
Thank you.
Think about it. Like, it was like, I mean, like, it wasn't the most complex songs, but when you listen to what you're doing, you're like, oh, this is like an actual song.
I'm working on thank you. I'm working on a track with Player 2 right now, and it's tricky because the loop is only about 40 seconds long from a Sonic game, and that's when, like, how do you make this into a full dance track? And he's really good about doing that. He's super prolific, put out tons of stuff, and does a great job of just taking the simplest things and just making it fun and making it dancey. But here I'm trying to go a little bit off the deep end because I'm like, yeah, it's 40 seconds long. You got to change it up a little bit each time. I don't know. It's a challenge.
Yeah. What is your process for that? Because I think about that, like the original Nintendo songs in games were very extremely short loops that would just play over and over and over again with no change. And I think that was part of the genius of them, is that why they're burned in our brain, because you're replaying for hours with the same song over and over again. It's like, but that is it's a huge challenge for you to extrapolate 30, 40 second loop of emotion that we're tied to an actual song that's 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes long.
Well, you think about any challenge really is an opportunity for creativity because it's like, okay, I have this problem. How do I solve it? But the way that you solve it, that's going to be how you put your own stamp on it. So there's no one answer. Try to do it a little bit different each time. But yeah, I think that's great because if it was already perfect and already the right length, then you run into the problem of like, okay, I put a dance beat behind it, but how is that different than the original?
Yeah, it's like a bootleg.
Yeah, exactly. But that can be fun too. Sometimes you're like, okay, this is already good, and I just want to give it a beat just so people could dance to it.
Do you use reference tracks when you are creating a song?
I've just started doing them. I have never done it because I'm also doing some mainstream tech house as well,
Okay, you are.
which is
I
the
haven't
reason I
listened to
joined
anything. I'm
Cosmic.
excited to hear that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Is it under the same name or a different brand?
That was one of the biggest questions. I came into Cosmic for the sole purpose of launching like a mainstream EDM brand name, whatever. And Justin talked me into keeping it together. And I'm so glad that he did because social media I have such an allergy to it, just to posting on it. So trying to do two at once and grow two accounts, two brands at the same time would have been a total nightmare. And even though it doesn't make a ton of sense, because really the live act, one is just going to be DJing tech house tracks, standard, and then the other is live keyboards, live drummer, all these other fancy bells and whistles. That's video game music. It's really two products, but for the sake of online branding, it's way easier just having it as one.
I agree with that decision because I think that while there are different brands out there, I think the best ones that come across is when you're 100% authentic. And it's like, this is who I am. Like, I love doing this kind of music. And then I also love making tech house. And I think like your fans will just get drawn in even more, knowing like having that relationship that makes you unique about why they get drawn in. Dead Mouse is another example. Like, he loves his hobbies and he is very vocal about him and whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
And like he's not shy away from it, and that's like part of his brand. But he makes a certain type of music, but he has all these other things about him. I think it's a great idea because like if you're playing tech house, but then you start dropping in some Mario beats in the background, I'm getting hype.
Yeah, I couldn't resist. Yeah, finally get my first track signed, and I couldn't resist putting a little Nintendo sample in it somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, that's exciting. Congrats. Is it recent
you.
signing? Do you have a scheduled release date or anything you can
It's
share?
not official because I went back and I'm like, what do you think about making it a 2-track release? And they're like, definitely. So no paper has happened since then. So I'm not going to officially announce it until that happens. But yeah, it's exciting. That was one of the boot camp tracks too.
It's really,
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I'm genuinely happy to hear when people are signing tracks, and I'm trying to share this with the world that like it's happening for everyone. That like if you put the work in and you just keep putting the work in, and you do the good work, you put yourself out there, you'll get a lot of no's. But as long as you keep kind of grinding every day and believing, you just gotta get one track signed, and you'll get 2 or 3 tracks signed, and everyone's doing it. You just don't see it behind the scenes because you just see the biggest people blow up that have 1 million streams on Spotify, but you don't see everyone else until they get there.
I think a big part of that though, it's not just grinding because I see a lot of people, they grind really hard.
Maybe that's not the best word, but yeah.
No, I mean, you absolutely do have to grind. That's 100% true. But if you're grinding on something that isn't quite working, I think the missing piece is that you have to adapt and learn. And, sometimes you can just go to, training and learn things that way. But sometimes it's trying something like, okay, this kind of worked. What was good? What wasn't? And then, applying those lessons to the next song or the next, submission to a label, anything that you're doing. I think learning from the mistakes is a big part of that process.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the biggest things I've learned recently is that the biggest mistake I made early in starting to do this was that I was so isolated from anyone else and I didn't have a community to help me.
Yes.
It's like if you're getting into this, the best advice I could give is find other people like you whether it's people that you know that your friends that make music or that like the same kind of music that give you feedback, other producers, some group on Reddit, some group on Facebook, something where you have a community of people where you can share your music, get feedback, and just kind of being part of a community instead of being isolated. Because at some point it gets kind of lonely if you're just making music on a laptop, usually in a dark room, huddled up, like crowded over your laptop, wondering if this is good or not.
Yeah, I mean, that's emotionally difficult if you keep doing something, you're putting your entire heart and soul into it, and it doesn't really get anywhere, or maybe it gets somewhere and then the next one doesn't, and you feel that, you could be laboring for years in obscurity. Without that community, you might not know that what you're doing is good or not. And maybe some people in the community could tell you, maybe try this, do this way, it'd be a little bit better. Or maybe they're saying, you're doing great, you just got to keep doing it, because that's the hard part, is not when you're starting, because when you're starting, you're excited, you've got all the mojo. It's after you've been doing it for a while and that initial excitement is gone, but you have to keep plugging away because you might be on the break and just don't know it yet.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough, but I that was incredibly well put.
Thanks. I mean, that I could speak from experience because that did happen to me, and I did give up for years and then dealt with literally 5 years of writer's block before I was able to get back into it. So if I can try to help other people not do that, then that would be a win for me.
I also have this theory where, not theory, but I believe there's a certain personality type that nowadays makes electronic music. And there's a certain type that of people that are entertainers, and certain people that, like, certain singers are more outgoing than, for example, I would say on a bell curve, most people that are electronic music producers. We are attracted to the technology. We are sometimes more introverted than others, but we like the attention, or we like making the music and stuff like that. So I think there's a weird personality type where we're so, like, I'm a technical guy, you're a technical guy. I love the technology side of making music, which partially draws me to it. I like the consistent learning and the challenge of learning more stuff. And I also get to make music, which is really fun.
Yeah.
But going from that type of stuff to putting all things that you've made out into the world to be judged.
Yeah, especially because the process, it's not that you're in a band and you play in some really tiny spaces and you're doing it all live in front of people, and then you build up from there. Here, the entire process is home alone, and then you're putting it out there. So that's a pretty big gap.
Yeah.
And dealing with that kind of rejection repeatedly isn't something that we're really trained to do as kids, I feel. Like you're in school and you are expected to get good grades. If you fail, that's a huge thing. You're like, oh no, you really screwed up. Whereas in these kind of creative pursuits, you have to fail over and over again. It's inevitable, and it's part of the process. So we're not really trained for that, and it takes some adaptation.
I agree. I'm a pretty extroverted person. I love talking to people. I give presentations for work all the time. No issues with that. But there's this weird thing that I realized when I started creating something with my creativity that I had to show to other people that I wanted to share. I had so much hesitancy and nervous around that I was very insecure, and it was a weird feeling for me that I had not experienced. I grew up playing sports, like individual sports, like wrestling, where it's very like, if you lose, it's because you lost, right? Like, you were better than me, and that's why I lost. So like, I had all those, like, I thought I had all the calluses in my brain built up. But when I got a track done, I was like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable sharing this. Is it good? Like, is it only good because I think it's good? Or is it good, actually good? And like, who's the right person to share this to? And like, if they say it sucks right away, it's going to hurt real bad.
Especially because we know what the best tracks sound like. And as producers, we can really pick it apart and be like, oh, this sounds better than mine because of this 100 reasons. Whereas the average person, they're also going to know that this sounds better, but they're not going to know why. And you have to deal with that. Like, have you ever seen the movie Amadeus?
I think so.
About Mozart?
No, I'm thinking something else. No, I have not seen it.
Yeah, it's about Mozart's life and his rival, who isn't as talented, but he can recognize how good Mozart is. And it's that gap. I call it the Salieri gap, where, until you're there, you have to deal with the fact that you're releasing music that doesn't sound as good as you want it to. But you just got to do it. You got to suck it up, finish it, put it out there, and just be okay. This is imperfect. someday, hopefully, I'll be as good as the music that I love. But until then, the fastest way to get there is just to, suck it up and put it out there. But it's hard.
Yeah, I've even, it might be with because my old age, but I have more perspective on time
Your
and
old age.
but it's, I look at
You
even
did.
things that like tracks I love from artists I love when I first loved them to how they sound now and how good they sound now, and I don't realize how long it's been since I first listened to them to now. And I'm like, okay, like I love Millennium. When he first came out, I like Crawl Out of Love, fucking love that track to this day still. I'm like, this is a banger. But when I listen to it and like the sound design of that compared to what he's producing now, it's the quality's amazing now. But there was a 4 or 5 year gap. And then there's a gap before I even found him. So like he's been doing this for almost 10 years to get where he is now, but you didn't see the beginning part or the first 2-3 years maybe at all until he finally like had the good stuff. Then he had the full album that we liked, and then there's that whole thing. So like I have to pull myself out and say I can't compare myself to anyone at this part of their career, at this part of the career. But like, look how it's almost motivating to me. Like, look how they sounded when they started. Like, look how Avicii sounded on his first tracks. You're like, this is the simplest song, but it's a banger. And then the sort of towards the end, you're like, bluegrass singer with a house track. This is genius.
Have you ever
like,
heard Dead Mouse's first album?
I don't think so. I probably have listened to it
Way before he got
no.
Yeah, well before Faxing Berlin.
Well, before Ghost and stuff, all before that.
Oh yeah, Ghost and
no,
stuff.
I didn't listen to it.
Many years after Faxing Berlin. It doesn't sound like him at all. Each track is a different genre. It almost sounds like student work. Like he's just trying all these different things out. And it's pretty rough around the edges. It's pretty derivative, but it still has some soul to it. And you can tell he also he put it out. He wasn't just like, this is my warm-up stuff. He did release that. And that's, I think a really good idea. Go back and just hear it and be like, wow, you do improve by just doing it.
Think about, I guess, I don't think it's fair to compare. I was to say, think about the first songs you created, but you knew how to play piano already. You probably,
dude, I could show you my first electronic tracks, man. They're really bad. It was years before I even knew what sidechaining or ducking at all was. Trust me.
It's that'd be a great series. Just everyone shows up. Just have like 10 people show up, and everyone just plays their first, and the first track they ever created. They have actually saved somewhere.
Yeah, I could show you that. It's pretty. It's something.
Yeah, mine is aggressively all samples.
Yeah.
I
think I made mine with a microKORG.
So for like for your home setup today, what do you got rocking?
I have gone more and more software these days. I just sold my Moog Voyager. I still have my Rhodes, which is lovely, and the Voyager used to sit on top, but now it's been replaced with this, the XDJ. Aside from that, I have a Nord Stage 3. At home, it's really just a MIDI input device, but that is for the live shows. And yeah, I've got an output platform for the desk. But other than that, I'm just going in the box these days. Yeah, it's really a workflow thing. How about you?
I have a very simple setup. Everything gets done with a laptop almost.
Yeah.
Ton of plugins. I have Yamaha HS5s monitors. I have these Audio Technica Studio. I use these honestly for everything. I travel with them everywhere I go. And then I have an Akai mini keyboard, which I use for everything I need. I can't play keys yet.
You don't need to.
But I'm trying to learn. I actually have I can't wait to get it. I ordered it maybe 6 months ago. It's called a Theory board.
Theory board.
So it's a new product where they did is they pretty much made an entire board made out of pads, split up left and right. And it automatically maps all the chords to the pads. And based on the chord you hit, everything on the right side is automatically in key. So it allows you to get creative with playing the chords on the left side. So you're always playing chords that are in key or in theory should be coming next. so it has all the music theory built into it. So you can just you can be very creative in playing
Huh.
around with not actually having to hit the right keys. And so you can play chords and mess around and then hit melodies, but never actually have to
That's
worry
cool.
about. So you can go up and down the octave very easily without actually having to. You play two-handed without knowing how to play keys.
Reminds me of an auto harp. Did you ever see those as a kid? Like the music teachers would have that. You like hold down a button and then strum it, and then it'll play one chord. Hold down a different button, it'll play the next chord.
No.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Um,
Yeah, I also love like switching to open back headphones. Got the Sennheiser HE 650, and that was a huge gap. And I was like, wow, I've been missing out so much before. That and buying a subwoofer. I'm like, how have I been making dance music for so long without a sub? I just you don't know what's down there.
yeah, I've talked about this. Is my current strategy is I work on it and then I export it and then I walk over to my car,
Fix the car. Yep. Oh,
and then
that
do
is such a
that.
crucial part of my process. Even with
Uh,
the sub, the car mixing, I think it's just being stepping away from the ability to actually make the change in real time. Like, all you can do is write it down.
yeah,
I think that is really valuable because it changes your mind. You know, you're in an evaluation mode. You're evaluating this work. You're not currently working on it, and that mental switch I think does a lot.
yeah. I use it too as a gauge for like energy. Like if I'm putting in the car, I'm listening to it, and I'm driving. I know what it is, but like, am I being compelled by emotion to sing along while I'm driving if it's an upbeat song?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've done it before. I play. I'm like I like it because I made it, but it really isn't like I'm not like in the mood to roll the window down and like that. You know the freedom you have when you're in your car and you can like sing along with like
Yes.
no embarrassment. It's like is that emotion being evoked or not?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a huge test for me doing that because it's like the only place where besides like here, that I feel like you can't. There's no judge zone because you don't know anyone. You're driving down the road.
Mm-hmm. Or
But
just the energy too. I feel like the bass and the drums doesn't make you just feel the move. It's so funny. I heard before I ever knew she was part of Cosmic Academy, Bexy, this song came on just a random uh, Spotify house playlist, and I was instantly like, "What the hell is this?" Turned it up, saved it, the energy song, but it's so hard to say what about that song is different than the other ones on that playlist, and I really feel like it's the way the bass and the drums hit, and that's something that seems ephemeral, that there isn't how do you put your finger on that, but really I think it's just 100 little tricks. And so I feel like we're in the process of learning those things, and it's not going to happen overnight, but we're on the way.
I agree. I try to listen to a lot of playlists of music I like, of like Spotify playlists that I haven't created, and I'll put
Mhm.
it on when I'm working, and I'll have it over here not paying attention while I'm working, like in the zone. Anything that stops me from working, I'm like I immediately save it to a playlist.
Nice, that's a good idea.
But like it has to be that something that I don't know what it is. And then when I go to like if I need reference tracks, I'm gonna pull those as my reference tracks when I'm making music because like they have that whatever that is
Hmm.
that makes you stop and go. Because sometimes you just listen to stuff, you're like, this is good, but it'll play through and I'm not gonna want to listen to it again. Or whatever that track is that it plays through on your playlist of songs you like, but it gets done and you hit back and you want to play it again. Like you put
Hmm.
it on repeat. Whatever those are the ones I always try to use for like references or inspiration when I'm making anything.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I wish I could do that. When I'm working, I'm ADHD, so it's so fragile. So I have to listen to the most basic, minimal stuff because if something pulls me away, I'm like, oh, I want to save this. Then going back to it, it's like,
And that actually segues into some stuff I want to talk about. I was watching a bunch of your videos. You have a segment on Instagram, the ADH tips for producers.
yes, yes, or just life hacks for creatives. It's something I really I've started getting into lately, based on my own experience of how I, was starting to do well, and then I just let everything fall apart. And I really want to help people not fall into that trap. Whether you're ADHD or not, there's a lot of mindset tips that are very important. And knowing that, yeah, this, like we were talking about earlier, getting rejected over and over again, having to do this for years before anything happens, that's emotionally difficult. And if you're already have some other thing in your life that's causing you to struggle, then you're that's a pretty tall order to be able to handle all that. So any little tips and tricks that we can get to make our lives more in order, to be less stressful, more organized, you're just gonna be that much more likely to be successful. And this, I'm not the super type A person that has my life organized. This all kind of happened within the last few years of just, getting everything together. So yeah, anything I can do to share to help somebody else out is really important to me.
What are some of your best tips you can share?
I just got a 5th whiteboard in my house. That's for one. Let's see some of the best tips. I write every morning. I've been doing that for a while now.
When you say write, like actually like handwrite in a notebook?
Right.
Like journaling almost?
I've done journaling before. Have you ever heard of the Artist's Way?
No.
It's like a 12-week program, a book from the 90s. I've done that. That when you do that program for 12 weeks, you free write 3 pages every single morning. But that's also written by an author for all creatives, but you can tell for other authors is the ideal way. But I think, okay, now that you've asked this, I have an idea. So what the number one tip I would say is have a morning routine, because you have to do a little bit of work every day. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to have every day be amazing, but you don't want to have multiple days in a row where things feel like they get away from you, because that can just kill your morale. Wake up, make your bed, do the dishes, and then write out what do you want to do for the day, or write out something you're happy about from yesterday, or gratitudes. There's no one right way to do it. I have my own routine. People like to meditate sometimes, go walks early. And a lot of people will say, this is how you have to do it to be successful. There's no one right way, but I feel like having a system that you follow, because once you do that, it's hard at first. And like, I wake up making my bed. What's the point of that? It's just going to be messed up again. But, 21 days to form a habit. After the habit is formed, you don't think about it anymore. You don't need discipline. And I think that's one of the most important parts, is eliminating discipline from your workflow, because we only have so much of it every day. So you build these habits. Once the habit is built, there's no discipline required anymore. Your brain just goes on autopilot while you do all these things. And that saves your discipline for the more important stuff.
I could not agree more. You're speaking my language. This is exactly what like my
excellent.
life. People don't realize how lazy the brain is.
Yeah.
The brain wants to have as many shortcuts as possible for every decision it possibly has to make in the day. And a routine is essential to that. If you keep doing the same routine, especially a morning routine, I'm big on getting a win early. What can I do that's not difficult that I could get a win in to start the positive train rolling? And then if I could get a win in, then have a normal routine. And I like to have my like normal routine roll into, I have a win, my day's going, I'm rolling. Then I can go into something I don't want to do, but my brain doesn't know it's not something I want to do. It's just the next thing that's going.
Absolutely.
I have some my enjoyment, and now I'm going, and before I know it, I'm halfway through that task and it's done, and it's not that bad. But if I just started my day with that was the first thing I had to do, there's no way I'd have the motivation to do it or want to do it or even get started. I procrastinate, do anything else. But like people, even like a routine and sleep schedule, just try. If you can just wake up at the same time, go to sleep at the same time every day, everything would be easier.
Yeah. I was just talking with Taylor Torrance about this, where it's so great to have a early morning schedule because you have all that time to yourself until you got to play a show and you're on at midnight. And then you're like, oh, shit. And that's my problem lately, is that anytime I stay up late, my brain is still wired to wake up at 5, 6 a.m. And then all of a sudden I'm on 4 hours of sleep. But
sleep's important too.
Yeah. There's no one right answer. Just gotta do your best and balance it out. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're on this train as well. I wish I found it out earlier in life, honestly.
Me too. I didn't. There's a couple of things I didn't realize were so important. One is being on a schedule as much as possible. I travel a lot, and I'll notice everything in my life will be less efficient when I'm traveling because my routine is broken, and I'll make worse decisions because I have too many decisions to make throughout the day.
Yeah, so this is literal brain power. It's like working out. You only have so much energy you can do in a single day, and your brain is the exact same way.
Yeah, and then I have to make more decisions, and over the course of the day, my decision fatigue gets worse and worse. And by the time dinner comes around, it's like cheeseburger, cheesecake, a soda to wash it down, and you're like, "What happened?" I was eating healthy, I was working out, the next morning I'm too tired because my sleep pattern's off. I'm going to skip the workout, and then everything falls. So it's like there's certain things you have to do every day, and if you do them every day, like you said, making your bed. No shade to people that don't do it, but if you just make your bed, it takes what, 5 minutes, 3 minutes.
It's for so long I didn't do that, and I feel like part of the problem is, at least when I was growing up, idolizing rock stars that were extremely self-destructive.
Oh yeah.
And like, oh, that's so cool to burn yourself out and do all these drugs. And, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not against any of that, but idolizing that isn't going to get you where they were. We think that's just, oh, they were super talented. And like talent, I'm really getting away from the idea of talent. It's really hard work and inclination. The fact that you love to do something, so it takes less discipline. You keep coming back and you do it over and over again. And then you get good at it just because of the time that you spent, not because some magical, thing happened.
Yeah. I have a very similar viewpoint on all these things. I believe that talent is hard work plus consistency over time and not quitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I know people are naturally talented. That usually only happens with a very fraction of anything, and there's potentially athletics involved, where certain people are more genetically likely than others. For example, some people can sing and some people can't. Yeah. It's just the way I can't sing to save my life. If you're an okay singer, if you work really hard and train your voice and train your skill set, you can be a good singer, right? And you can be very talented. And if you work hard enough, you can be successful, because you might not have that sound, but I don't care. If you continue to work hard, you can make it work. But yeah, I'm not big on the whole talent thing.
Yeah. Also, is loving to do it, I think, is an important part too, because if you try to force yourself to do something just because you think you need to, there's the thing where you get over it by developing a habit. But if it's something that really isn't for you and you just think it is, maybe other people want that for you, and you'll burn yourself out instead of getting into something that turns into talent through consistency.
Yeah, I agree. I was talking on the last episode, is you don't have to love every day, but you have to love the process.
Yeah, exactly.
The process, every part of your life is the process. There's all your goals are such a short amount of it every time, that like I don't always want to do stuff, but as a whole, I'm not dreading going to like open up Ableton. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, I'm not in the mood to do it, but I'm happy. I'm gonna like just get going, and then I get done. I'm happy, and I'm like, okay, this is a good day.
Yeah.
And some days you're like, this was amazing. I might as well be the best music producer in the world. I don't know why I'm not signed to every label. And you're like, this is the best thing ever. I'm about to blow up. And then the other days you're like, I'm going to give up. I can't do anything. This is the worst sounding track ever. There's a 14-year-old that's better than me, and I should just quit while I'm ahead.
I used to be so goal oriented, and it was honestly just awful for my mental health.
Yeah.
And now I'm old as hell. I'm not going to have some amazing career anymore. I don't care. I want to spend my weekends producing, doing other stuff, developing the live show, just because that's how I like to spend my hours. And whatever happens, happens. If something big happens, cool. If not, no worries, because this is what I want to do with my time.
Yeah, that's like, I don't think these live streams and Rain Talks will be the next Joe Rogan experience, but I get extreme amount of joy and happiness connecting and talking to others. So as long as I continue to get that, I'm going to continue to do it.
Exactly. And that's what it's really all about. And I feel that's probably the antidote when people go on Instagram and they're like, I can't be on here because I look at everyone else and I get so envious. Like, be happy for them and do what you want to do. And yeah, focus more on the systems than the goals.
I agree. I'm a big anti-social media guy. I was like, I don't want to post about myself. I don't want to draw attention to myself.
Oh, yeah. Feel you there.
I don't want to put eyes up, like you can relate, but I realized like there's also like another way you can be on Instagram as an artist that is comfortable for me, is if I can just shed love on other people and celebrate their other success. I get so much joy on doing that. I just go on half the time to see what everyone else is doing. And like every time someone gets a label signed or they're trending on Beatport, charting on Beatport. I like get the like send them a private message, or I know I want to heart it. I want to like put a reply, like a comment on there, so that they get more engagement. I get joy now of help, like showing the love and seeing other people succeed. So that's my motivation to be on there every day, instead of like, I'm gonna post this picture about me with a filter looking cute, trying to get as many likes as possible. I was like, it took me a while to realize there's other parts of it that I can get enjoyment out and still be part of the process.
Yeah. And the best part about that is once you really internalize that lesson, you really do feel that joy. It's not just, oh, I'm doing this to get ahead and I'm boosting them so they might boost me in the future. No, you really are genuinely happy for them. And that makes you happier in your day. And then you can take something that used to be envy, and that's just another source of happiness. And it's such a great reversal.
Yeah, it was like Tina got a Trouble Tina.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to her. She got a record signed. I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Probably be seeing her shortly. Yeah, I know.
Oh.
I love that little post that Justin did about her.
Me too. She put the
And
work
honestly,
in.
that was in the post before that. That was like, all right, if this is the fire you need to to kick your ass into gear, because Instagram, I'm hitting all these other things I'm working on, and Instagram was kind of at the bottom. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge is, how do you create content that you're enjoying creating, that is true to yourself, that doesn't feel like a chore, which is something that I struggle with very, very much.
Yeah. And I realized, though, this wasn't going to happen on its own. I needed to just rip the Band-Aid off and just start doing it, even though I'm not enjoying it. Eventually, I'll find something that does work. But, sometimes you find it on its own, and sometimes it all happens. But sometimes you really just do have to push through it.
Just be consistent.
Yeah, I was waiting until I had at least 15 things. I've got my little... That's the other thing. Charts everywhere. Like different categories of stuff, and I was writing it down. And I was like, okay. And then once I have at least 3 things in each category, I'll start scheduling them and make it ahead of time. And 2 weeks passed and I still hadn't done it. I'm like, just start posting it manually.
Yeah.
Then work up to the scheduling, then do 3x per week first, then 5x. If you have an idea, cool. If it doesn't work, adapt.
I agree. It's like anything else. I overthink it too. Sometimes it's just put it out there.
Yeah.
If like if it's just a picture of your dog, I personally just love everyone's dog or cat content. So if you have it, put it out as much as possible.
Let's go on the list.
So I have some requests from potential new songs.
Mm-hmm.
If you could make a song on the GoldenEye soundtrack, when you're playing multiplayer and it's like dun 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 dun.
I mean, that's like all of them. So
it's the only one song that plays when you're playing multiplayer the whole time. Oh, there's that one, and there's what's the one where it's like one of the levels you're in, whenever you die, it has a very, I gotta find them all, but it was like playing that game on N64. All the tracks are like burned in my brain. So that's any request I have is for anything GoldenEye related.
Write it down. Yeah, if you have a specific one, because there's a bunch, they're all really similar. 64. Yeah, I'm always looking for more, because at this point, I've long since gone through all the obvious ones. But really what I'm trying to do, because there's a lot of people that already have remixed, the Zelda main theme or Mario and all that. So what I'm trying to do is find the deep cuts, whether it's an unknown game or whether it's maybe level 7. I still do a lot of the popular ones too, if I really think they're good, but that's perfect for me, is if I find something that's truly unknown, but the song slaps.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do this.
How do you find those songs? Unless you've played the game, how do you know?
A lot of times, people like you being like, hey, have you heard of this? And sometimes I'll go on YouTube and just search for, video game music. But yeah, I don't have time really much to play games anymore, and I've gone through most of the stuff that I played when I was younger. So yeah, just random sources really. A lot of recommendations though.
I request for me. I think you should put a poll out from people on Instagram like once a week or once every other week of like what people want to hear and requests, and then just make it. Just do a 30-second quick remix, mansion style, like
That's
what
a
he
good
does.
idea,
Just a quick
actually,
video. Like
because I do put those requests every few months, but then I take it and spend 3 weeks making a big production out of it. But I like that idea of just something really quick.
yeah, just do something simple. Like just do a simple like drum kick bass, and then play piano over it. Something where it's not super low calorie, but I'll get enjoyment out of it.
Down, good idea. Really good idea. Thank you.
All you got. I'm making requests selfishly for myself because this is what I want to see. So
yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes down to how do you make Instagram content quickly in a way that doesn't take all your brain, like we were talking about earlier, of habits that take away from your discipline, all that mental power. And if you need to post very often on social media, you need to find ways to do that don't take your entire brain power, because you need that brain power for making new music. That's what the important stuff.
yeah.
So anything to do that where it's a routine, it's like, okay, I do this now. And Mansion's a great example because there's a lot that goes into that, but he's got a process now, I'm sure,
Yeah.
where he just does it. And once you have that down, you can make a lot of content.
Yeah, he's built he's crushing it. He's able to push it, like put out videos consistently and like making music. But like think about it too. If you're able to look at it as a creative way to like start potential projects, you now have like a whole library of stuff you started, and you're like, oh, I actually like where this is going. I'm just going to continue on this route instead of like getting stuck in the which song do I do next.
Yeah, no, I like that.
It's like you're incorporating your workflow that's already beneficial to your overall work pattern, where you're like getting reps in, you're getting practice, you're getting time in Ableton or whatever you use. You Ableton guy? FL
Yes,
Studio?
Ableton, yes.
All right. Sorry, I made assumptions here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like how do you incorporate something that you already do that also can be used as content?
Yeah, a bunch of friends of mine have been playing this game called the 20 Song Game for over a decade now, where every few months you take an entire Sunday, everyone goes off on their own, makes as many songs as they can for 12 hours, and then gets together at the end of the day and have a listening party. And it's really fun. And the idea is not to make the best songs or even in your genre, is take a break from your normal serious music and just go out and have fun and be weird and troll and be funny, do some ridiculous nonsense. But it gets good because it gets you in the habit of moving really, really fast.
It's good practice. That's fun. That's not like I have to make something.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can make something that fast.
I mean, actually hitting 20 is extremely rare. 7 or 9 is normal. I pushed through and got 16 last time. I was going to make a reel about that, but then I started. I'm like, this is almost more work than I'd rather spend this time on a song. Maybe I'll put that together.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with when I did boot camp, but I need to focus on more. It's almost like just start something new once a week at least. Just try to finish something every week.
Yeah. I don't know. It's tricky because I've been working with a lot more collaborators lately, and it really has kind of thrown up my workflow, because last year I was putting out a song every 2 or 3 weeks, with the exception of a big block when I was working on the live show. But having that there, I'm like, okay, I've set these dates. I'm holding to them. Even if I want to work more, I can't, because here's the date coming. Then you start having these collaborators and you can't necessarily control when they're going to get back. And that, yeah, it's really throwing me off. So I'm trying to figure out how to balance that now.
I have no answer for that. Good luck on that one.
And we're working on it. Actually, just started with one of your cohort mates. We're accountability buddies is something that a coach friend of mine does. So we just set dates to each other. The true way the accountability buddies, they do it. They say like, okay, I'm committing to do this. Here's $100. Give it back to me if I make it. Keep it if I don't. I'm not doing that, but at least having some visibility out there saying that, okay, I've committed to hit this date, And then once you commit, you basically like BCC on the email saying like, all right, here's the submission going out to the label, or here's it going up on DistroKid, or here's it going out to the collaborator for their thing.
I think that's a great idea. I think that kind of goes back to like having the community
Mm-hmm.
like to as a support system, because like you need someone to hold you accountable, someone you can get feedback from, and you're more motivated to do it, even if the motivation is guilt. It's
Yeah.
still a good one. Like you don't want to let him down. Like it sounds silly, but like that accountability build, you build a relationship. He's putting the work in, and like you want to like make sure that you're holding up to your end of the bargain and doing your part as well.
It's fun. I heard some research recently. I don't know if you're. It sounds like you're into that kind of mindset stuff, but
Oh, that's
visualization
like
is something.
it's right up my alley. I read all those books.
Yeah, visualization is really something that people talk about a lot as we like see yourself in the future. For some reason, I always struggled with that one. But then I heard of this study that was more effective. It's kind of fucked up. Is visualize yourself failing. Like if you don't do the thing, where will you be? And that can be more effective. I can't say that I've actually sat down and done this yet, but I think that's part of the spirit that's in play here, saying like I'm putting this out there, and now I'm imagining if I don't hit it, that conversation would be like, oh, I guess I missed it. But if you don't do that, it's just yourself. Well, no one's going to know.
I can agree with that statement. When I started making music, I was like, do I really want to do this? It's like I'm like a working professional. Like I am in a relationship. Like I'm an adult. This
It's
is
hard to find a time.
yeah, it's hard to find the time. Like this is past me.
Mm-hmm.
Like my time is past, and I was like, I will regret this more if I don't do it than if I do it and fail. And I was like, that was like, then like something switched, and I was like, this is what we're doing now. And I also believe on the positive side, if you want to flip the negative side of regretting your failures, I'm really big on the power of the spoken word. If you say something out loud to yourself multiple times over, the likelihood of you accomplishing that or doing that is exponentially more. I don't know why, but if it's in your head and you don't say it out loud to anyone or to yourself, the likelihood of you doing it is very little. It's almost like writing something down.
Is this more the affirmations type thing?
Yeah, it's like the affirmation, or it's like I don't know why it is. I believe in it personally.
Mm-hmm.
There's some studies around it, but like there's something about when you actually verbalize it and it comes out of your mouth and you hear it, you believe it more
Mm-hmm.
because it's real. I don't
Yeah.
know why.
No, I like that. I think that's a lot of what I do with writing. But also once a week, I'll just have a brainstorming session that isn't work. Like work can get done, but I really just write out a bunch of notes and ideas and stuff I could do in the future, and go back later and look at those. But having that, yeah, it's just taking something that might have just been a sporadic idea that you might not remember, but you get it out somewhere. It's a little bit closer to becoming reality.
Yeah, it's like I like to like write stuff on notes and put them places I see all the time, and then I
Mm-hmm.
just say whatever that note is out loud when
That's
like
great.
I get down to my desk, because then I just said it. I don't know why, but now it's real, and I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now we're gonna go do it. First, like sitting quietly with your thoughts. I don't know. They don't seem to happen. I don't have the motivation, or they don't stay top of my mind when I just think about them, internalize them, because maybe I'm just too scared at that point to actually vocalize that I actually want to pursue it. I don't
Yeah.
know. The human mind's a crazy thing.
Well, you're saying earlier though about like with the comparing failure and looking ahead, something in the Artist Way book that I was mentioning earlier is that people, especially older producers or just art creatives in general, can look back at like if I had started and done this 10 years earlier, imagine where I would be now. But instead, you could be okay. Imagine myself 5 years from now if I didn't do it, and then that's really the comparison. It's like don't worry about other people, don't worry about your past self. Just compare your future self to where you would be if you didn't do it, and then realize how much you really can do.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
Um,
What other? So what's clearly you're into this kind of stuff. What's one tip that you have? Does that be the number one, but something that's really crucial to you?
um, I have a lot of these. I would say a positive attitude and being a good person is the most important factor to success. Everything I've received in life is because I was a positive person and I was kind to others. And I realize the more that I do that and I put others in front of me, everything will come back to me tenfold in the long run. Someone wrongs me, I'll be fine. I can talk to them if it's time for them to be out of my life because of that. But I forgive you. Everything will be fine. To an extent, you get what I mean. But like, just be nice to someone. Be a good person. The universe will reward me for just putting that energy out there. I don't know what it is, but my wife is incredibly positive. She's rubbed off on me. I just try to do everything with positivity, be nice to people, and help out when I can. And I don't know why, but it just every person who I've talked to who does the same thing seems to be extremely happy and successful.
Well said, Mark. Well said.
Like when you see other people being like every decision I have, there's a positive and a negative choice they have with my emotions. I see someone you have a record label getting signed. I can either say, fuck the Icarus Kid, pardon my language, but like he's not that good a producer. I should be getting signed. You know what I mean? Or you can be like, I'm so happy for him. He deserves, I'm gonna share a post about him. I'm gonna praise him. I'm gonna tell him how happy I am that he got this because he deserves it because he worked so hard. And like
honestly, also when you have those kind of feelings, I'm not saying that you have those kind of feelings, but when one does, that's your brain trying to tell you something. And that's your brain is saying, wait, why are they successful if I'm not? That's a map. Be like, okay, figure out what that person is doing. If you don't think they're worthy, work on the positivity later, but there's something that they're doing that you're not. So go out and figure out what that is, whether it's networking, whether they know people, like, oh, they just have the connections. So go out and meet people,
Yeah. I would say that. And then I would say consistency. It's like the number one thing is just keep going.
Yeah. Like, I think the key to consistency is really what we were talking about earlier, forming the habits so you don't need discipline, make consistency easy, put the healthy food in your fridge so it doesn't take effort to eat healthy. It's just something you do.
I think everything I've ever gotten good at, I started and I was terrible at. And I look how like things I got incredibly good at, and I go, I don't know if I look at the time perspective looking back, I would have never thought I would have gotten that good at something. But
babies are terrible at everything. Babies fucking suck at playing the piano. Like we all start terrible at everything, and then we start and we kind of suck, and we suck a little bit less. And after they say 10,000 hours, but it's the process of getting better and better. But someone's like, oh, I can never do that. I'm not talented. Like, yeah, you can, assuming that you like it enough to stay on and develop the habits and put the hours in.
I remember I had this huge, I read like a David Goggins book. There's a big part of my life where a lot of things switched. And one of the things that really like changed how I thought about everything is when I started running. I'm not a fast runner. I'm not particularly athletic. I remember going for a run and it was like, I'm going to go run 3 miles. And there's no chance of running 3 miles. And I was like, I can't run anymore. I'm going to give up. And I was like, wait, all I have to do is just keep running. I don't have to run a long distance, but if I just keep running consistently, I'm going to run 2 days this week, 2 days the next week. Then I'm going to run 3 days. And then over time, I'm going to get to 4. Then I'm going to get to 5. And then I was like, before I knew it, I was like, how far can I run? It's not, am I a runner? It's what is the distance or the time that is the limit to my body's capacity. And the only thing that will stop me is like not running anymore. So I was like, all you have to do is just keep going.
Yeah.
Like you have to make some good decisions along the way. But I was like, I can get good. I'm not a fast runner. I can run a really far distance. But it was like, I only got that because I just put the time in every day consistently. You don't jump. It takes literally like 2 to 3 years to like get good at your physically for your cardiovascular system, your bone density, your lungs, like all to slowly transform to have like what you need. But it's only done by, you don't work really hard for 1 month and it comes. It's every day. Just go for an hour, 45 minutes, 30 minutes. If I have a busy schedule, just go for a run for 30 minutes. As long as I get something in, That's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like producing, just open it up. What I've been doing now is like, if I'm not in the mood to open anything up, I got Melodics, which is like Guitar Hero for piano.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just be like, I'm just going to do this for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good comparison, because when you start running and you're out of shape, it's going to suck. It is going to absolutely suck. And you just have to fight through the pain. But eventually it gets easier.
Yeah. You don't want to do the next day. All you have to do is just put your shoes on the next day.
Yeah. But eventually you get to the point where it doesn't suck at all. It's just something you do. And yet, yeah, there's some pain involved and some pushing yourself, but it's just part of your process. And that's the same with music, because when you start, that's the part, you really have to get through sucking and putting stuff out there and listening to yourself. You're like, and you listen to a reference track and like, this just is horrible, but nobody is born knowing how to produce.
I think it was Zach or Taylor. They're like, just get through the first 2 years. Mm-hmm. They're like, work consistently every day for like 2 years. He goes, it might be faster than 2 years. It might be a little longer, but around 2 years, you'll suck less.
Yeah.
I was like, I believe that. Just keep going.
Yeah. I also, a lot of people are like, okay, you're a talented musician. Anybody can be a musician as long as you love music and have the most basic, feel for it. But I think anybody could do it. It's just, you have to want to enough and spend the time and basically push other things of your life aside, because, we're busy.
Yeah, I think anything else, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve what you actually want to achieve, where you want to go?
Yeah.
I was looking, I was like, I want to take piano lessons, but I was like, I don't know when I'm going to take piano lessons. So I was looking at my schedule. I was like,
honestly, I'm taking piano lessons now for the first time in like 18 years. And I'm practicing an hour before work every day, Monday through Friday. That's really cutting into my production time, which sucks. And it's definitely slowing things down. But I'm like, I'm just going to find other ways to fit production in, because just decided to do this right now. And maybe I'll change that later, but maybe that's okay to kind of slow production down just to hit this other goal. But yeah, it's always a balance.
Yeah. I think as time management becomes critical to success more than anything, like if don't watch Netflix.
Yeah. I don't play video games very much anymore, but that's okay. I've played plenty in my life.
I don't play video games. I love playing video games, don't get me wrong, but it's the only time I ever play video games is if I'm actually sick or I've had surgery and I can't go anywhere.
The last time I was really sick, my girlfriend's like, out with her friends, like, oh God, it must be really bad. He asked for a Netflix password.
I do. We're already over an hour.
Yeah. Be back in a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna be late. I want to thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. I've had the absolute best time talking with you. I would love to continue this another time. Hopefully have you back sometime soon. Hopefully let's stay in touch. Let me know when your release is coming out. We'd love to have you back on, potentially listen to that little preview before it gets dropped, announce that. But I had an absolute blast. Thank you so much for coming. Any last final words you want to say or go through?
I just wanted to say thank you, Marc, for having me. Definitely be following up with you about those books, or not books, but just the concepts, and seeing if you do have books about that, talking about mindset. I love to geek out about that, because yeah, I mean, it's really the little things that get us better. And clearly you understand this, and that's the key to any kind of success that you want. It's cheesy, but it's cheesy because it works.
I agree. Thank you. Very wise words. Thanks again.
All right. See ya.